Now, if this is the 7th time that this particular climate extremist blocks the traffic, what does it say to you about our courts and the law?
Well, I mean, look, we've got to separate a few different issues here, Andrew. We have to say that, number one, we're not China, we're not Hong Kong. People do have a right to demonstrate. People do have a right to protest. But we also have to say that what these people are doing goes far beyond any sort of reasonable sort of expectation of what a protest should be about, a demonstration should be about, because this is entirely designed to insidiously disrupt the commerce, the life of a major city in Australia, and that's just simply not on for all the reasons you elucidated and more. And I think there's a real problem here with these judges who simply refuse to do what they should do, which is to provide the sort of punishment which says to these people, the cost of doing this is simply too high, and we should go and protest and put our voices out there in a legal manner and in a manner that is not going to disrupt the whole city. But I think, this whole climate extinction thing brings up a whole bigger issue, too, because I think what it really is about, you have to look at why are they doing this. And I think that it's not so much about a climate crisis, but I think it's symptomatic of a bigger crisis we have here in the West, where we've become so dissociated from traditions and everything else that makes us understand who we are, that people who are so unmoored from who we are in a culture will wind up saying, this isn't sustainable, this is somehow wrong, and we need to bring it all down. And I think that this is part of a broader symptomatic problem we have in our society.
I agree with you. I think it's a search for meaning. I think it's fundamentally a religious spasm more than anything else. And look, I'm glad you drew that distinction, because I agree the right to protest should be sacred here, but do it on the pavement. You don't need to stand on the road and block everyone else, particularly when there's only 6 of you. I just think that's really selfish. But going back to your point, this catastrophism right now, The Guardian Australia just has done a long and sympathetic piece on a sustainability guru, Michael Mobbs, who says he's fleeing Sydney, James, because global warming is going to cause it to collapse. He says, my guess is water, energy, food, the seasons and economies will collapse in the next 3 to 5 years. So we haven't got long to go. And he's moving to Bermagui in the country. I don't know. I think he thinks cities are more dangerous. What do you make of this sudden apocalyptus that we now see everywhere?
Look, I think, you're absolutely right. It is this apocalyptic fervor. I think that it is, among the people who get involved with this sort of stuff, it is an apocalyptic delusion. It's a sort of, we've seen this in the Middle Ages. We've seen this throughout society, throughout times, that these kind of mass apocalyptic cults seize people and they get involved in these whole sort of fervors, and they believe that the world is going to end for one reason or another. And now I think, with religion having declined in the West, people being separated from God and from religion and those sorts of things, which might actually provide a bit of stability for them in this sort of circumstance, they now are so unmoored that they just find that same sort of urge anywhere. I just think it's kind of sad, I think, for people who become so unhinged, but it also, we've seen it before, and we've seen it with environmental stuff. Certainly since at least the 70s, we've seen this sort of thinking that, the world is going to end. We need to go back to the land and all of that. But, of course, the world keeps on turning. We keep on talking, and, the city is still surviving.
It goes a long way before that. For those who are interested in history, the Anabaptist revolt in Munster about 500 years ago, that is just a frightening example. But listen, what also scares me, James, apart from the issues that you were raising there, is that the Guardian newspaper, and talking to this bloke who thinks Sydney will collapse from global warming in just 3 or 5 years, they never said once to him, you're full of it. You're panicking needlessly. Look, guy, wake up. These are the facts. And that worries me too, this uncritical recycling in the media of this alarmism.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You've really put your finger on a real problem, that there are large segments of the media that absolutely, and I think really irresponsibly, play into this catastrophism. We have seen scientists connected to the IPCC recently say exactly what you're saying, that even if there are climate change issues and there are environmental problems, they're saying, this sort of the world is going to end tomorrow or in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years sort of thinking actually is doing more harm than good. And I think for those people in the media who care about the environment, and I think we all care about the environment, but we care about it in different ways and think the solutions are very different. But, you know, the people who pretend or say that they care about the environment the most actually are doing the environment a big disservice when they preach this sort of millenarian, apocalyptic sort of fervor, rather than, you know, ways that we can all live more cleanly and, in fact, produce energy more cleanly, such as, well, I had to say it, but nuclear and things like that.
Yeah, well, look, absolutely correct. But there you get into another religious spasm as well, the anti-nuclear movement. Finally, Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, James, they've been on what's been called a successful tour of South Africa, but they're ending it, I don't know, I was thinking it's a rather down note by suing a newspaper, Britain's Mail, on Sunday for publishing a letter that Markle wrote to her estranged father, who then, nice father, passed it on to the newspaper. Now, the Prince says his wife has become one of the latest victims of British tabloid press. And I'm quoting here, "I've seen what happens when someone I love is commoditised to the point where they are no longer treated or seen as a real person. I lost my mother, and now I watch my wife falling victim to the same powerful forces." Now, that's obviously a reference to his mother, Princess Diana, who I must say actually made a big play to be a media superstar, by the way. But what do you make of that, suing the newspaper?
Yeah, look, I mean, if she wants to sue anybody, why doesn't she sue the father who gave the letter to the newspaper? I mean, I don't think the newspaper necessarily did anything wrong there. That'll be a matter for the courts in Britain to determine. But I also think it's a little bit rich. You know, if your whole business model, which is what being a royal is to be basically the public celebrity face of Britain, and there's this huge interest in you, for Meghan Markle to marry into that family knowing exactly what she was in for, to embrace it, to relish it, and to take herself from being, you know, sort of a Hollywood somebody to being, you know, this huge royal, and knowing exactly what she was doing. It's not like they pulled a Wallace Simpson, decided to go move to California and you know, just do their charity work. You know, they make a very big deal about all of this stuff, and then to say, well, you know, don't criticize us because of this or that or the other thing. I just think it's pretty disingenuous, frankly, Andrew.
Well, I also think, James, that a number of things that have been criticised for, they should have been criticised for. This is actually a sign of distress in that, you know, the hypocrisy of preaching everyone, you know, global warming, but taking one private jet after another. Some of the showboating, like going to Wimbledon and clearing out all the VIP area to sit with your friends, as the Duchess did, to watch Serena Williams play, and warning people off taking photographs anywhere near them. I mean, that's not a good PR move. You're going to get criticised.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's not just even things like that. You know, there was that story that went around that they distributed letters to all of their neighbours in the area where they had moved into and said, you know, do not approach us, do not talk to us, do not pat our dog. You can't know the name of our dog. The name of our dog is a state secret. There's been so many of these sort of strange, sort of diva-esque behaviours, I think, on her part. And I don't know how much her husband is going along for the ride on that, or is a passenger on that. But it is, you know, it is absolutely, as you say, it's completely predictable that people are going to criticize you, call you out, and I think quite rightly. You know, if you're trying to be this virtue signaling princess who's telling everybody how they should live their lives and then go fly off on a public jet, well, you know, you're going to cop some flack, and deservedly so. Yeah,
well, don't be so surprised when it comes, and don't complain about harassment. And
Correct.
Because don't forget, the media attention is part of the reason they live such glamorous lives as well. That's part of the deal. And I don't see his brother and his wife Kate Middleton complaining about and having to sue newspapers. There you go, James Morrow. What a pleasure to have you back, and may I urge people again to watch you and the team light up Sunday at 9 o'clock.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Thanks for that very kind endorsement of the show.